I got rejected from medical school 7 times before I got my place. So here are some things I wish I knew before I applied. If you're new here, my name's Amelia and I am a second year medical student. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what I wish I knew when I was applying to medical school, and then I'll add a few points at the end as to what I would have done differently. So this is going to be different for everyone because everyone has different journeys into medicine and everyone reflects differently on what they learn and what they wish they could do next time. Commonly people say, I wish I would have known to get my grades first time, or I wish I would have studied for the admissions test, and they are all very, very valid points. So that leads me on to my first point, which is nobody's journey into medicine is the same. As I said, when I applied to medicine, it took me 7 times before I finally got my acceptance into medicine. And I remember this being a pretty rough time. I just felt like I was never going to get in and this wasn't meant for me. But when I started medical school and I finally got my place and I started, I quickly came to realise actually how many different pathways there are into medicine and how many people have different journeys into medicine. I am not exaggerating when I say in my year there are more people that have took gap years than haven't. That is just how common it is. That's not the only way that people get into medicine. People take gateway years, people do access to medicine courses, people go through postgraduate and do a degree first. There's so many different routes into medicine. People have so many different experiences, and your journey into medicine is not going to be the same as anybody else's. And I think that's a really, really important point to remember even when you're applying to medical school. You could not get in first year round, take a gap year and get in second year like me, or you could get in straight away from college and then you could fail your first year and we would actually end up being in the same year. It really doesn't matter about your journey into medical school. Everyone has different paths and it's just so important to focus on your own. Everyone is going to struggle at one point or another of the journey into medical school or the journey through medical school. So you are not alone in this, and it's going to be different for everyone. This brings me on to my second point, which is to be strategic in your applications. So I do talk about this a lot on my channel, but I think that is a reflection of what I wish I could have told myself, because when I applied the first year, I just applied to places I wanted to go. I didn't really do much research about them. I didn't really do much research on whether I'd be able to get in. And I think that's a big factor on why I didn't get in the first year round. So many people apply based off where they want to go rather than where they will get in. And it is important to do your research about the universities and apply to where you want to go, because you don't want to be miserable and you want to enjoy your uni life and go somewhere you want to go. However, there is no point applying to somewhere that you're not going to get in. I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I'm going to use an example of the UCAT, and the UCAT is an admissions test we use in the UK. So this admissions test doesn't apply to other countries, but the same principle applies. Both years I didn't get the best UCAT score, and the first year I applied to places that I wanted to go. I didn't really do much research, and I applied to some places that actually only accepted people with higher UCAT scores. So obviously I was never going to get into them because I didn't have a high enough score. And if I would have done my research and applied to places with lower UCAT scores, which is what I did the second year, I would have potentially had a higher chance at getting my place in medical school the first year round. So I do not wish I did anything differently because I really enjoyed my gap year and I am really glad that I had that experience. However, if I was thinking about what I'd do differently if I wanted to get in first time round, it would definitely be do my research. I didn't even know you could get into medical school if you didn't meet the typical AAA that medical schools want until I came to medical school and I realised that you can do gateway years into medicine. Some universities accept ABB, some universities accept AAB. Like, there's so many different options and I didn't realise that and I wasn't aware of that. Another thing that my friend mentioned is to make sure you research the course as well and how it's taught, because the courses are taught so differently at every single medical school. For example, at my medical school, I go on placement weekly from first year and we do that all the way until third year when we start our clinical years. And a lot of medical schools in the UK, you don't actually start placement till second year where you do a few weeks and then you start your clinical years in third year. That's just an example of the differences between medical schools, so it's definitely important to do your research on that as well, because you want to be going to a medical school that teaches in a style that is going to suit yourself. So the third thing I wish I would have known when applying to medical school is rejection is redirection. As I keep mentioning, when I got rejected from medical school, I was so down, so down. I was so upset, as you can imagine, and if you've been through that experience before, you will completely understand how it feels, and it is awful. But then I took a gap year, I travelled, I had the absolute best time on my gap year. I met the best people, I had such fantastic experiences. I got into med the second year round, and here I am in my second year of medical school. Now I'm at medical school. Do I care about being rejected 7 times? Absolutely not. I am in medical school, I'm where I wanted to be, and those rejections literally do not matter. All I got out of it was a great year of my life. So it really does not matter the journey you have into medical school. Even if you don't get rejected, if you have a really stressful time, or if you've not started yet but you're worried about getting into medicine, like, just keep that in mind, that it's so important to know and understand that it doesn't matter what happens. If you want it and you work hard, you'll get there. So the journey there does not matter, and it is going to be fine. Obviously, I understand that it is really not a nice feeling to have, and I understand that you are going to feel rubbish if you're struggling with the application, or if you're stressed about the application, or if it's not going to plan. I completely get it. I've been there. I understand. But what I'm saying is, it is going to be fine. It will work out. Prime example sat here. So number 4 is hard work pays off. It is a long journey into medical school. You spent all these years revising for your exams, you have to sit the admissions test, you have to get all this work experience. Literally, it's a very long journey into medical school, and sometimes looking at such a long journey ahead, it can feel a little bit demotivating and a little bit discouraging. But I promise you, hard work pays off. Doesn't matter when, it doesn't matter how, but if you keep trying and you keep working hard, it will pay off. Hard work always pays off. You only fail if you give up. Now we've gone through what I wish I would have known when I was going through that horrible journey of applying to medical school. So let's move on to a few things that I wish I would have done differently. So let's start with preparation is key. Sounds very obvious, I know, but it's so easy to not prepare or semi-prepare. So for example, your interview, it's really important to be researching what type of interview you're going to be having, then researching how to tackle that interview, whether it's MMI, whether it's a panel, whether there's any special stations. Really important to know that and do your research on that. Also, before your interview, make sure you're rereading your personal statement, because they will bring up your personal statement. They will bring up things you've mentioned. So you need to know that personal statement inside out. Even things like what's going on in the news, like medical things going on in the news, they like to bring stuff like that up, or they like to hear you talk about it if they ask a question that you could bring information like that in and make it relevant. It shows you are actively keeping up with medical and ethical dilemmas, which they really like to see. My friend really wanted me to emphasise how important preparing for the interview is. A lot of people think that the admissions test and the personal statement and getting the work experience is the hardest part, and just the application is the hardest part, and then once you've got the interview, you're set, you'll be fine. But that is not the case. You need to prepare for that as well, because that is just as an important part. And if you get an interview and you don't prepare for it and then you don't get your place, that is going to be so frustrating. So just make sure you prepare for the interview as well. Whatever admissions test you're sitting, whether that's in the UK or a different country, make sure you prepare for it early. A lot of people say 2 weeks is fine. Honestly, I wouldn't say that's enough. I would say you need to start preparing as early as possible. Like your personal statement, I would say start now. I don't mean have the whole thing written and drafted and ready to submit 2 years early, but there is absolutely no harm in jotting down ideas and jotting down things that you have done and you think's worth mentioning. It's so much better to be over prepared than under prepared, and that is just one thing that you need to make sure you're doing: preparing, researching and being organised. So personal statement leads me on to my last point on what I wish I would have done differently, and that is to reflect in your personal statement. As a doctor, you're going to have to reflect. As a medical student, you're going to have to reflect. Medical schools love a good reflection. I have to do multiple reflections weekly. So if you're showing you have that skill before you start and you're showing that through your personal statement, that is going to give you a lot of brownie points with the admissions team. So if you show them that you have experience, reflect on what it has taught you and tell them about how it has inspired you further for your medical career. That is going to give you a very good foundation for a very good personal statement. So that is the end of this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it and I hope it's been helpful. If it has been helpful, I would really love it if you would like and comment down below and subscribe to my channel. Please, 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 if you have any questions about the application process or your journey into medical school, please ask me in the comments, because I would be more than happy to share my experience and help out where I can. So thank you so much for watching once again, and I'll see you in the next one. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite.